In today's world, people are more disconnected than ever. Anxiety, loneliness, and depression are rampant, and young people are desperate for meaningful relationships. From the beginning, Edge has created opportunities for people to develop in their personal, professional, and spiritual lives.
My relationship with my mentor is awesome. Shout out to Jason. He's there for me in terms of any questions I have, both professionally and personally. Earlier this year, my dad had COVID, and he was one of the first people to check in with me regarding that. So it's nice to know that he cares about me as a whole human being.
Edge continues to provide ways for you to develop as a whole person, to grow yourself, and to find your role in your community and make an impact. Edge offers a variety of programs and events to provide community and safe spaces for whole person development to occur. Edge Groups, Edge Work, and Edge Events are our current product offerings, but we are always looking to expand as a way to better serve our community and to be able to positively impact more lives. We believe that people grow better together. We are all made for community. Once you have expressed interest in participating in an Edge group, we will pair you with 5 to 7 other young professionals and a carefully selected Edge-trained mentor. And together, you will navigate life, including personal growth, career development, and faith. Edge group participants commit to a 1-hour virtual gathering with their group every other week for 1 year. And because Edge Groups is a virtual program, you can experience the power of intergenerational mentoring from anywhere.
I'm Toni McEwen. I work for Corteva AgriScience, and I lead our global HR service centers. I do think I have the best Edge group because these women are constantly showing up for one another. So while I'm technically the mentor, there's a lot of moments where I sit back and I don't say a lot, and they just speak into each other's lives.
Edge at Work is a 1-year cohort-based program that focuses strictly on personal and professional development. Leveraging a curriculum that we co-created with Butler University, emerging leaders are provided a safe space to focus on their own personal and professional development. We focus on everything from mental wellness to overcoming failure and self-limiting behaviors to receiving feedback and managing change. Edge Events is where our entire community comes together. Events are the glue that bring folks from all of our programs together to share life, learn from each other, and address relevant topics within our lives and communities.
I struggled in my early 20s with figuring out you have to take ownership of your career and choices. And I think Edge really helped me gain clarity to make those choices.
I wanted to get involved because I frankly wish I would have had something like this 20 years ago when I started my career.
If you are a young person who is looking for deeper connection and community, Edge is for you. For those more seasoned, we are always in need of strong mentors. Your life experiences should be shared with others. If you are a business owner or executive and would like to provide a unique opportunity to your employees, Edge at Work would aid in their own personal and professional development journeys. Learn more about how we can partner with you at edgementoring.org.
My name is Casey Kraus, and I'm proud to serve as the Director of Products here at Edge. I'm so excited to be with you for EdgeX. What I love about EdgeX is the incredible energy it seems to create within all of us. I look forward to it all year. So today, I'm honored to announce our next speakers, Shawn Johnson East and Andrew East. Shawn is an Olympic champion, a Dancing with the Stars champion, a best-selling author, a dedicated philanthropist, and an extremely successful entrepreneur. Andrew East, her husband, is an NFL football player and a very impressive content creator. He is a multi-podcast host and also runs a YouTube channel with Shawn called The East Family that has over 1 million subscribers. Shawn and Andrew are the proud parents of their daughter, Drew. Liz Henderson from our Edge team is with them to ask about their story and how it relates to our EdgeX theme of look inward, focus outward, go onward. Please join me in welcoming our next speakers, Shawn Johnson East and Andrew East.
Well, guys, we're so excited that you're joining us today for EdgeX 2020. Our theme this year is look inward, focus outward, and go onward. So our desire is just to kind of get to know you, dive into your stories, and kind of learn some lessons from you that you've learned along the way. So Thank you. Thanks so much. So first of all, we want to jump into who you were growing up and everything. Shawn, you were a teenager while competing in the Olympics. So bring us back. What was life like for you?
Life was crazy. I was 16 years old when I competed at the Olympics. I was 12 years old when I made the USA national team. And I was training 25 to 40 hours a week on top of going to public school. So my life pretty much consisted of public school and gymnastics and homework. And that was about it. So I'd go to a full day of school, go to practice afterwards, fall asleep, and start over. But
We were talking earlier, so you have siblings, no siblings?
no siblings, only child.
Okay, what was your friend group like during this time as well?
My friend group was definitely different. I was that person in school that I got along with like one person from every clique in the school. I wasn't a part of. I was very, very shy. I loved school. I was that quote unquote teacher's pet. And then all my friends pretty much were from gymnastics practice. And I think it was just a relatability factor. I didn't know how to relate to kids at school who didn't spend 30 hours a week in the gym, but they were inseparable for me. We spent every weekend together sleeping, like doing sleepovers and parties and, you know, all the fun kid stuff.
That's fun. Andrew, talk to us about your childhood growing up. What was it like? Did you have siblings? What were you doing? What were your dreams?
Yeah, well, I'm an underachiever compared to Shawn during my
Okay,
teenager. I have
wow.
a few less world and Olympic accolades to show for it. But I'm really fortunate that my parents kind of had the strategy to really get us involved in as many things as possible, whether that's Boy Scouts or swimming or rugby. We did a lot of sports, which I loved. I did some theater as well. I'd be happy to sing some maybe like musicals if you'd like me to. But,
Yeah, give us a snippet of that.
no, but it was really fun. Just I enjoyed the diversity of the activities that we got to do, and again, I didn't like really excel at one thing right at the gate, but it was fun to kind of test my toes at different things.
So talk to us a little bit about your relationship, how you met. I know it's a bit of a unique story, and kind of your dating life during that time.
All right, so in 2012, the Olympics were in London, and my brother was an Olympic level cyclist. So he was over there watching a cycling event that he wasn't competing in, but ended up bumping into Shawn, and they had this long conversation. Found out that she wanted to go to school at Vanderbilt, which is where I was playing football. And so I actually created my first social media account, slid into the DMs, and got her number, and then was able to, over the course of several months, kind of persuade her to go on our first date, and then kind of hit the ground running from there.
Wow. Okay, so was this Facebook that you were
Twitter.
It was
Twitter.
Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes us somehow seem old now.
Twitter.
Twitter.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Do you, yeah. Okay, so talk to us. How long did you guys date? What was it like during that time? You know, you're in the NFL, you're an Olympian.
So it was actually a really interesting dynamic for us because we dated for 3 years before we got engaged and got married. And for me, I was in this interesting transition in my career where I basically wasn't working. I wanted to kind of get away from everything. I had been so overwhelmed for so many years with working so much right after the Olympics that I kind of just took a 2-year hiatus. I didn't travel. I did maybe 3 motivational speeches a year, and that was it. And it's while we were getting to know each other. So I would fly into Nashville. We would kind of have dates for a couple weeks. Then I would fly back to Iowa where I was living. And it wasn't until pretty much the year we got engaged that I started working again. And that dynamic of like the travel and the long distance really took off, and the NFL kind of aspect to it.
It was fun. So I was a college student, and now looking back on it, it's we're so fortunate that the timing happened as it did, because now I realize like how rare it is for Shawn to not have travel so frequently, and she was really able to dedicate time to us growing our relationship, because I had to go to class, you know, every day, and I had football practice, and so it worked out really well.
Did anybody give you a piece of dating advice that kind of stuck with you during that time? And also, kind of what characteristics in each other drew you to each other that you thought this would make a good mate?
So it's funny. Actually, my Edge mentor, I kid you not, Tom Eggleston, gave me a piece of advice when I was really interested in Shawn that kind of changed my perspective. He helped me understand what my priorities should be. He said, the only two things you should be concerned about in looking for a spouse are her heart for you and her heart for the Lord. And because there's a lot of things that you can get distracted by, like how tall is she, which, you know, Shawn is 4'11", or like what are there, like there's just so many things, and really it all boils down to like, does she care for the Lord and does she care for you? And so that was really invaluable.
That's really good. And I love that you shared that you had an Edge mentor. Will you share with us a little bit about your experience? I know you were one of the first Edge groups and whatnot. So share with us the value of mentoring in your life and kind of what that looked like.
I think it was 2015 that I joined, around there. And I got thrown into this group. I was fortunate enough to meet Tom Eggleston, who is a guy that I really admired from a professional and personal standpoint. And he kind of took me under his wing and introduced me to a group of other peers. And then we went through this whole process where he would kind of lead this conversation and give us perspective that we didn't have the capacity to understand with the area of life that we're in at the moment. And so it was really fun to kind of get challenged by him and then be able to discuss and work through those challenges with my peers. So I was a part of it for 2 years, and I loved every second of it.
And you still keep in touch with Tom today?
Yeah, as well as some of my other mentees, you could say. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Shawn, what role has mentoring played in your life?
Oh my gosh, I feel like it's one of the biggest roles and like contributors to my success. I feel like mentors for me were my coaches, and then we actually had mentors with like the USA national team. And then after I retired from gymnastics, we had a lot of like retired athletes that would reach out to mentor us. And it was always just that opinion and voice that was unbiased and wasn't your parents and wasn't your friends, that could really help guide you down a path that you wanted to go, and kind of help sort through different distractions that were in your way, I guess.
I feel like so many of us have like just this limited perspective that, like, you know, we're born into, whether it's what our parents expose us to or like what area of the country we live in. And so like we're kind of looking through this kind of tiny little periscope, and then it takes someone else who has a wildly different experience, but cares for you and like has a trajectory that they know is beneficial, and they know that they've learned from, to really like open up that perspective and give you a different view of how things could be. So it's awesome.
That's so good. I want to talk with you guys about this whole idea of identity. Part of our theme this year is the importance of looking inward. And I think a lot of young people and older people struggle to realize who they are as a person. We're all trying to discover our gifts, what we're good at, what we're called to do. So talk to us, you were coming out of the NFL, you're coming out of the Olympics. I'm sure you wrestled with, what do you want to do next? And so what did that discovery process look like for you? Did you have to spend a lot of time diving deep and figuring out who you wanted to be next, and kind of share with us your thoughts through that?
Yeah. I actually struggled with it a lot, especially after being at such a high level within gymnastics. When that was done, I didn't know how to be anything other than a gymnast. And I feel like a lot of times, I've talked to a lot of college kids about this, we get caught up in being and becoming the person that we're told to be. So your parents might see something in you and they're like, oh, you should definitely be a lawyer. You're going to go to school, you're going to study this, and you're going to become a lawyer. And I feel like there's so many different stories that kids grow up listening to, where people are basically creating an identity for them, that we lose our way and we lose how to like find our own passions. And for me, after gymnastics, when that was done, I was lucky enough to have mentors and people encourage me to just strip everything down and completely start over. They said, if there's nobody you could disappoint, what would you try? And I just tried everything. I tried every different hobby and career and profession, and tried all of it and failed miserably at 99.9% of it. And through that, found stuff that I was interested in and kind of started learning and educating myself and growing into a career, I guess. So
That's really good. Andrew, what about you?
It's definitely not an easy thing to do, to just like find what you're good at. But I think what I learned from my time getting mentored is you can look at the things that you really enjoy doing, the things that other people might say you're really good at or that you say you're really good at, and get perspectives on what those things are from different people whether it's someone older like a mentor who has a certain perspective, or your parents or your peers or someone that you're further along in the path with, like really like seek out, have these conversations and say, hey, like, what do you see that I excel at? Or what do you see that I'm not that good at? And then match that up with what you love doing. And then just honestly trying different things is the best way probably. But whittling that list down is a fun process that could take some time.
So our friend and author Bob Goff often says that you need to find a circle of friends. When you share your dream for your life with them, they call out an even bigger dream in you. So talk to us about the value of friendships that you found and how you found who to surround yourself with and kind of the benefits you reap from that.
I think Andrew and I have spent a really long time talking about that. And I feel like in our relationship, but we talk a lot about the people we surround ourselves with, because what's the quote you always say?
You're the average of the 5 people to spend the most time with.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times we can get caught up surrounding ourselves with people that are in your life for a reason, but might not be the best influence. And sometimes you have to like take a step back and look at those people that you are spending a lot of time with and seeing what effect they have on your life. But I feel like the community we have around us really challenges us to dream bigger and supports you when you get frustrated and when you fall down, and they help pick you back up. But it's been a good community to help, challenge us in our marriage and our life and our parenting and our career.
I think beyond just looking for people who are interested in similar hobbies as us, we also look for people who have like bigger ambition than us. Just like Bob Goff talks about dreaming bigger. It's like, who do we see that's just like unintimidated to jump in and like pursue something that they otherwise knew nothing about? You know what I'm saying? Like, just really that we could learn from in having that perspective and having that bravery that I think, whether it's being an entrepreneur or, like starting your own charitable organization, there's so many different things. Who has done that? And then how can we get connected to them and like really have this mutual exchange of value? So I think that's been big in our lives.
That's really good. I know a lot of people watching today are probably thinking, okay, well, where do I find people like this, and what age range should I be looking in? So talk to us about your friends. Are they similar in age to you? Do you have older people, younger people? Where do you find them?
I feel like our friend group is very, very diverse in age and background and upbringing and everything. I feel like some of our closest friends are, 20 years older than us or also 15 years younger. It's just, I think it's one of the reasons why we love our community so much is people have such differing opinions and aspects of their life that really, they just like give us different perspectives on everything it is we're going through.
Yeah.
But what would you say?
I think once you have a hint of what you want to get involved with, like what organizations can you jump into and meet other people who might be able to push you along that path. But certainly like a group like Edge is extremely valuable because it's kind of, that everyone in there is ambitious, and that everyone in there has like the same kind of goals and values, and it's kind of like this pre-selected group that that you can challenge and they can challenge you.
That's awesome. So share with us now where you are in life. You have a little girl, and talk to us about what you're doing in your careers.
I feel like we have a lot going on.
You do, and this is like where the magic happens, right? With your podcast and everything.
So when I was bouncing between different NFL teams, and my plan for my life was to play in the NFL for 10 years. And so when I got picked up by the Chiefs, I signed like a 4-year deal, and I was like, sweet, I'm well on my way to making that happen. But I got cut after 3 months. And so it began this like process of me having to figure out what I wanted to do and what I was good at. And so that's why Edge was so big in my life. But also we kind of got started on this process of social media, and we started a YouTube channel just to document our wedding planning process. And now that's turned into, we produce, quote unquote, about 4 shows. We're right now in our podcast studio. And so we have 2 podcasts, we have a YouTube channel, and we do commercials for Fortune 500 companies and consult on behalf of Google. And so me just like starting off kind of by force, out of necessity, to create this YouTube channel has now led us to this point where we could have never seen ourselves 5 years ago. And it's been a blast. I wouldn't change anything about it, even though my NFL career didn't pan out like I thought it would. I'm really thankful that we are here where we are now, you know.
So you're the brains behind the podcast, the YouTube, everything, and do you just go along with it, or what's your take on it?
No, I think we're a really, really good kind of partnership and team when it comes to business. For me, we kind of like meshed all this creativity and entrepreneurship early on. After the Olympics, I got kind of thrown into sports entertainment and marketing for so many different years. I would go through contracts and ambassadorships where I would learn the ins and outs of sports entertainment, marketing, sales, and with social media and pairing it with the entrepreneurship side, Andrew's definitely the business brain. He can make anything come to light, and then I'm the marketing side of what's it going to look like, how are we going to sell it, how are we going to, position it within our brand and business.
I love that.
It is really fun. Shawn's an amazing dreamer, and so what usually happens is she'll be like, "Hey, I want to start a coffee company. Good luck, Andrew. See you in
and then
6
he
months."
starts it, and then I put together the whole
okay.
now we have to sell it.
Yeah. So it's a fun back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure people have asked you. Are you guys into the Enneagram? Or do you know what numbers you are?
Yeah, I'm a 3-wing 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
No, I love that. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of dreamers sometimes, you're too busy to think about it. So.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your dream for your little girl? As she looks at your life, what do you hope that she becomes?
Oh my gosh. I hope our daughter learns, through us, but through everyone else in the world, that she can be whoever she wants whoever she wants to be. And I hope she's just a boss and follows her dreams and isn't limited by anything.
I don't think we have a super form-fit idea of what we want her doing or where we want her to be. It's more this general goal of, I hope that she finds what she was made to do. Mm-hmm. And I know that means being a world changer for her, whatever capacity that is. I'm super fortunate that she has Shawn as a mother to look up to, because I think that Shawn, with her ambition and thoughtfulness and courage, is an amazing role model. And so we're just on this process to help her get involved with whatever she wants to get involved with.
Talk to us a little bit about your trials. We know that you've been so open with sharing the world. You've gone through eating disorders, miscarriage, and you've been open about your pain. Was that hard to share? And share with us a little bit about what the response has been from those who have heard.
Yeah, it's been really hard for both of us to share everything, all the trials and tribulations we've gone through individually, and then together as parents and as just a couple. But for us, I think a lot of it in sharing the pain was just through social media and through the community that we've built. It was a relatability factor of, we had been giving people content to kind of respond to for so many years that all of a sudden we found ourselves in a position where we needed the advice and we needed to know that we weren't alone. And when it started was with the miscarriage, we had ended up sharing a video, and I didn't know how to heal from it. I didn't know if it was a normal thing. I didn't know if anybody else had gone through it. And so we had decided as a couple to share it. And it was just, the response we got was from this massive community we had built that we thought was one-sided. We thought our job was to give them information and that be it. We all of a sudden saw it kind of flip, and we saw the entire community coming back at us saying, here's my personal story, here's how I got through it. And it all of a sudden opened up this platform to see that it was truly a conversation with the world, and really helped us heal through so many different things that we've gone through, which has been really, really cool to see. Powerful.
Yeah. What would you say has been your biggest takeaway from the pain that you've experienced, and what role has faith played in that?
The biggest takeaway I think that we've learned is that whatever rough time you're going through, there's someone else out there who can support you or relate to you in some way to help you get through that, and to give you a different perspective of when you're going through the tough time, you can't see the other side of what's going to happen. And so I think what I've learned, and we've been fortunate enough in our careers and in our personal life to go through enough difficult things. Like I got cut by 7 or 8 different NFL teams over the course of 5 years. And it was like, every time you're just shook, and it's this emotional roller coaster. And so we've been able to see that there is another side, and that having hope, I think, is what we've learned from faith. That, like, you know, when we look back on our careers, for instance, or the miscarriage, God has this plan. Like, you gotta get to the other side and have that perseverance, like, just to see how it's gonna pan out. So it's fun, and I think having that hope is crucial.
I think too, there's also been an aspect for me personally that whenever you find yourself in a position where you don't feel like you have the strength to get through it, I feel like faith has always been that strength that you need. And it's almost like whenever you find yourself in a point where you're like, I can't handle this, that's when like faith kicks in and takes care of it for you.
Because there's a certain element of confidence that you glean from knowing that the God of the universe loves you and you're the son of a king, where like sometimes we as humans think of ourselves so little, and it's like, I'm not worthy of this, or I can't make it through this. And it's like, no, you were made for a reason, and God has made you for a purpose. And just knowing that is like sometimes the only thing you can cling on to.
That's so good, guys. What are your dreams for this next season of your life?
Yes. Learn every day how to be a better parent than we are today. I feel like for us, it's been really cool. Ever since having Drew, it just gives you a sense of purpose you had never felt before. And I feel like every day when we go to work and what we work for, it just feels different. And it's all for her. And yeah, I hope to raise the coolest little girl ever who can dream of anything.
We try to, as much as possible, have like a hold on loosely type of mentality. So I think we dream big, but we have expectations that like, hey, this probably isn't going to pan out like we think, but as long as we're pursuing something, we'll be okay. And so that goes for parenting. It's like, you know, there's this tendency to want to just be hands-on and like control everything. And we realize that just, you know, can't happen. So, yeah.
What's your last piece of advice for those who are watching today, whether they're struggling with their career, friendships, relationships? What little tidbit would you have for them?
I would say nothing is supposed to be easy or perfect. I feel like we all set out with these plans of this is what my life is going to look like. This is the job I'm going to have, the person I'm going to find in college and marry. I mean, we all try to plan out and write out our future, and it's impossible because it's not our future. It's something greater that someone else has a plan for. And we've been reminded a million times in our life that we'll sit down and we'll plan something, whether it's like the NFL or a business, and it will fail miserably. But something so much greater shows up, and you just have to be patient, and you have to keep striving for something that you're passionate for.
That's so good.
I am a big outdoors guy. I love adventure, and from my time climbing mountains, I've learned that you always have to walk through the valleys to get to the peak. And so, like, you know, if you're in the valley, just know that if you keep going, if you keep pursuing, and you keep persevering, you'll get there eventually.
Wow, that's such a great way to end. Guys, we're so thankful that you joined us for EdgeX and everything, and we know that those watching today are going to be so touched and inspired by what you have to say. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liz Henderson with the Edge team, and I, along with my colleague Casey Krause, are going to be doing today's Q&A with Shawn Johnson East, Andrew East, and Sky Jatani. We're so glad you could join us. The gift of being able to hold EdgeX virtually has given us personal interaction with speakers that we've never had before. So if you have a question for today's speakers, please be sure to click the Q&A button below and type in your question. We hope to get to as many as we can. But before we launch into our Q&A, I would like to again thank our presenting sponsors, MedXL, Lucas Oil, and all of our corporate partners. It's because of you guys that we are even able to make EdgeX happen. Now let's get started, guys. I would like to introduce everyone to Shawn Johnson East and Andrew East.
Hey guys.
Hello. Hi, it's so good to be with you guys today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Perfect. Well, we've had a lot of people commenting on your message today and that they so relate with your vulnerability and everything that you've been going through. They loved how you were honest about how important it is to go through the valley to get through the peak. But guys, we want to kick off with a question. When you go through that, what are some habits of success? How do you get going through that valley?
I think for us, it's always just been perspective. I feel like when we are going through those valleys and going through hard times and challenges, just to know that, like, be aware that it is a valley and it's not everlasting and you will get through it. But if you just kind of put one foot in front of the other every single day, you're going to find yourself, through it in, like a matter of time.
I'm going to say cliche attitude. And I say having like a upbeat, positive attitude is important because from my experience, I feel like it's just discipline, like daily discipline and being consistent with that, and then perseverance. And I feel like both of those, you need to just kind of have like, hey, you know what, we can make it through this, whatever you're going through. And having that attitude is a real game changer.
You guys are two of the most positive people we know, and so we're so blessed to have you a part of the Edge community. And we know that you've shared so much of your life on social media for everyone to see. So how do you deal with the negativity that can come with that, and how do you remain positive in such a negative world?
Oh my gosh. I think dealing with like the negativity and criticism, I don't know. We've tried to build boundaries within social media and kind of sharing our lives over the years to where we've kind of figured out a system to where we don't share anything until we've experienced it, we've figured it out, and we feel confident about whatever platform it is. So I feel like when the criticism does come, it's easier to like bounce off you or to not digest it. And then it also helps to have a community of people to kind of help filter out the truth from not. So every once in a while I'll be like, babe, this really affected me. Is this true? And he'll kind of reassure me.
Yeah, one of our favorite authors is Tim Keller, and he has this devotion that he does with his wife, and they kind of talk about this specific issue where there's certain people in your life who their criticisms and their compliments should have a heavier weight than random people on social media. So I think just surrounding yourself, whether it's with, your spouse or family or friends who care about you and will give you that honest feedback when you need it, but also will be there to encourage you.
So good, guys. So questions are starting to roll in from our viewers today. And Nicole is wanting to know, what piece of advice do you hope that Drew learns and cherishes as she grows up?
Oh my gosh. It's very cliche, but I hope and dream that we do a good enough job teaching her that she is truly capable of anything. I feel like one of the hardest things to overcome in life, just as a human being, is the limitations like the world puts on you and society puts on you. I feel like a lot of people try to tell you something's impossible or you can't do it, or because of your age or whatever, they try to limit you. And I think my parents and Andrew's parents did a really good job at teaching us that none of that is true. You can truly become and do whatever you want.
Yeah, one of my biggest life mentors is my grandpa, and he said something that I think has stuck with me throughout my entire life, and that's if you're going to do anything, it's worth doing with excellence, and be so proud of that thing you're doing that you'd be proud to sign your name to it. And I think that's just a good motto to have, where it's like, hey, if you're not proud to be involved in an activity or a group or whatever, then that might be a good indication that you shouldn't be involved with them at all, and look for something else that you are proud of. So that's something that stuck with me.
Great answers, guys. So we have a question. We're going to keep it anonymous. They say that I'm currently dating a professional athlete and have really been struggling with how to respect his desire to pursue it 100% all in, while grappling with the unpredictability of the future. How did you deal with the lack of stability within the realm of professional athletics? Man. So this could be a question for both of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would say from like a spouse side or a partner side, it's honestly just something you have to choose from day one, whether you're in it for that or not. For me, during my gymnastics career, so many people sacrificed so many things to encourage me to achieve my dream. And so it was a no-brainer for me that when I started dating Andrew and he wanted to go into the football world with so many uncertainties about where we would live, what our careers would look like, it was a given. I knew that in supporting him, the best thing I could do was help sacrifice for myself and for our relationship in order to see his dream through. And I think it's just like a relational thing that's what you do for someone that you love.
I think embracing it as a phase that won't come around often or again is something that I kind of that helped me through my 5 years of bouncing around on 8 different NFL teams all across the nation. It is an emotional roller coaster where you're like, oh my gosh, I got to try out with the Colts. This is so fun. Oh my gosh, they want to sign me to a contract, and then you get cut. And it's like dreams come true and then dreams shattered. But realizing that, like, hey, you know what? This is one part of a really cool story that's panning out. And, you know, not clinging too tightly to what you think that plan or that dream should look like, realizing that the story will develop.
So Kyle wants to know, with all that you guys have going on right now, how do you avoid burnout? That's a great question, Kyle. Or are you burned out?
It's hard. It's really hard. I feel like we struggle with that just as much as everyone else does. Like every once in a while you get tired of what you're doing and you need a change or you need a break. And I think for us, it's just constantly challenging our goals and resetting them. I feel like whenever you start feeling that burnout, you just kind of have to take a step back and say, okay, what can I change or what new goal can I set for myself to kind of remotivate my passion?
Yeah, fortunately, I think balance does mean a lot to Shawn and I. And so we try to find that in all aspects of life. You know, like weekends now, I think when we were just married, the second year of our marriage, we would work all the time. We would travel all the time for work. And now it's like, hey, you know what? Actually, it's good to have 2 days where it's just us and we're enjoying things and less intensely focused on our career or whatever project we're working on. So I really think the balance is a key thing that Shawn and I have kind of sought after recently.
That's so good. So I love seeing all of your questions coming in right now. We want to give a shout out to Trent Jones with Glow Fire Creative, who has helped us produce EdgeX. Trent, we're so glad you're watching today and tuning in, and thanks for all of your help there. So many questions here. So next one is from Nicole. She wants to know, what excites you and motivates you most when you are starting a new business? We know you guys have a few going on right now. Do you have different motivations than each other, or how do those line up?
I think we definitely have different motivations. I'm the dreamer, so I always see the end goal. And Andrew, I mean, you can speak for yourself, but I always see, like, what motivates me is the end goal, and I see the vision that I want when it's all done, and it's fun trying to piece together that puzzle to get there.
I just love the excitement of learning something new. And so a lot of the projects that we're involved with are in kind of wildly different industries. And I love that because that just kind of encourages me to learn something new that I haven't before. I do have to say this, it sounds like we really have a healthy separation of, you know, who does what, but we argue over this a lot and there's a lot of friction that happens. But I think just the concept of taking on something new and realizing that, hey, this is kind of a new adventure. I don't know how this is going to end, but we're going to give it our best shot.
That's good. So Shay wrote in and she said, I feel like this question and subject is something that a lot of people struggle with, but it isn't addressed very often. What is your advice on how you move past the past? How do you move past your mistakes, your regrets, and get on to the new thing? And I'm sure you know when you start a business, there can be a lot of mistakes and regrets or relational issues. So how do you move on from the past and keep going forward?
I mean, this is a very like cliche and vague answer, but I think you could relate it to relationship or business. I think you have to forgive yourself and forgive the situation and learn from it and move on. Something that I was taught in gymnastics was something that they ask a lot of athletes is, what would you change? What would you do better? What would you go back and what do you regret, like in that competition or whatever it was? And my coach taught me very early on to never regret anything. He said, you will make mistakes, you will fall, you will fail, and you should. It's like how you pick yourself up and learn from those experiences that make you who you are now. So whether it's in business or relationships or personal life, it's just, you have to forgive yourself, you have to learn from it, and you have to continue to move on and get better.
I think that's a great answer.
Thank you.
So you mentioned Tim Keller's devotional. What other practices do you focus on to help strengthen your relationship?
We do a couple of his devotionals, and we do Jesus Calling. And then I honestly think that Shawn and I feel most connected when we're having a conversation that, you know, reveals something, like just whether it's philosophically or, oh my gosh, like this is so fun. We've never talked about this. What's your perspective on it? And so I think just like seeking out content, whether that's in the form of books or articles that we know is kind of wholesome, that we can have a really healthy conversation around, is something that we really, really enjoy.
So Scott Taylor wrote it, and he said, with respect to generational eras, how do you think God is moving through the millennial generation? How can older Christians best encourage and develop mentees in your own experience?
You got it.
A big question. The first thing that came to mind is, I feel like especially millennials right now, we're living through a pretty doomsday era where nobody sees like a future in whatever it is. And I think the greatest part and the greatest way God is moving through us and generations is teaching the millennial generation that there's hope. And I think that's something you learn with time and experience, and it's something like our generation needs more of at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of the beginning of this ultra hyper connected society. I feel like we're the first kind of generation in that. And obviously there's a lot of bad things that come with that. But there's also so much good that can come from that. And I think just realizing that, hey, this looks way different than what it used to look like, whether it's online church versus in-person church or whatever it is. You know, there's countless examples, but just realizing that millennials do have a heart for Jesus. And even though that might look a little different than it did 20 years ago, it's still the same core beliefs.
Good advice, guys. So Matt wants to know, when you guys might feel like your relationship is in a valley, what are your go-to plays or your tips to get back to alignment and in connection with each other?
Date night. I feel like a lot of our valleys are caused by feeling separate from one another, whether it's like being weighed down by business and work or travel or miscommunication. And I feel like the way we always kind of get back on track is, even if we have to like schedule it when we're not in the greatest like situation, we put it on our calendar and we schedule date night every Thursday night, and we go out to dinner, go out to a movie, and have some good conversation and try to reconnect.
There might be some tears mixed in here and there, but we usually get to the fun part.
Yeah.
Okay, so anonymous attendee wants to know, what ways do you humble yourselves and remain steady in your faith when you are on the mountain and everything seems to be going well? Great question.
Yeah, so I think, you know, we talked about peaks and valleys in the interview we did with you, and I think it's really important, whether you're in a peak or a valley, to realize like, hey, there's some middle ground, which is really where your emotional stability should be coming from, where it's like you're not super hyped when things are going well, and you're not super bummed when things are going poorly. I really think that knowing that different phases do come to an end, whether it's good or bad, is a humbling thing to remind yourself, and just being in it for the lesson that God has for you to learn, again, whether it's good or bad, is just a really tough perspective to keep, whether it's a peak or a valley, but important.
What practices keep you guys grounded as you dream, but seek to submit those dreams and pursuits to God's ultimate purpose in and through you? So how do you dream? What practices do you do? And how do you seek to submit those dreams and pursuits to God?
We talk about the vision board?
Oh, I want to hear about this.
Yeah.
We do a massive vision board once a year, right around the new year, where we write down all of our goals for the year. We reflect back on our goals of the last year and how we succeeded with them or not, what we learned, how we could progress. Did we dream big enough? Did we, not? I mean, we just kind of like.
Yeah, but then printing out pictures, I was always big into goals, but then like actually printing out pictures and creating a vision board was a new step that really challenged me because, if Shawn and I want to affect 1 million couples when our career's over, printing out a picture of like what a conference of 5,000 people looks like is really kind of a filter of, wait, is this something that I'm really interested in? Or is this just like maybe an outside dream that I think I might want to accomplish? And having a picture, like a visual association with the dream, was a really new lesson for me. And I think it really helped me finesse what my dreams are.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Okay, an anonymous attendee wrote in and said, you both are very driven and successful as professionals and parents. What tips do you have for working parents out there juggling competing priorities of career and family? How do you do both well?
We try every single day to make sure our priority is always our family. And I feel like for us, if we start every day knowing that our family is the priority, then everything else seems easy. And we fill the extra time and the space with work. But if we ever find ourselves in like a balancing situation where we don't feel like we can hold both, it seems like things work themselves out when we prioritize family first, because that's how it should be, I guess.
I'm going to plug another mentor of mine.
Okay.
And I think it answers both of these questions. Coach Franklin, who's not Penn State, but I played under at Vanderbilt, said, you should approach every day with a positive attitude, a great work ethic. You should compete in everything you do, and you should always be willing to sacrifice. And I think whether it's with your professional life or your personal life, those are kind of a good 4 standards to keep.
So good, guys. So Milo wants to know what Bible verses or quotes currently speak to you.
Wow.
Go ahead.
We've been reading through Proverbs, and it's been interesting to read Proverbs 31 and apply what I always thought would only be for my wife to like, oh, actually, I need to evaluate myself by the same standards. So that's been a good learning process.
I'd say one of my favorites that has always been one of my favorites just talks about humility. It says God gives grace to those who are humble. And I think for us, we've been really lucky with work and being able to pursue dreams that we've had for years. And I think similar to what you've asked in this question and answer, is just continually humbling ourselves every day to know that we are very lucky and blessed and we love what we do.
So Trisha says, both of you have a very successful YouTube channel. What has been your favorite outcome of social media, YouTube, all of it?
We've gotten to meet some really cool people. And when we first got into social media, it was not for the connection part of it, but we've found that that's the most fulfilling. And that's our favorite part now for sure, where we've met so many hundreds, if not thousands of people who we have this relationship with. And it sounds kind of ridiculous because it's almost in some ways a one-way street where it's kind of us having the conversation at someone. But when you meet these people at like just out in the world, you have so much more in common, and we're able to start that conversation so much more advanced because of whether it's we've DM'd them and on Instagram or whatever it is, and that's been like super, super fulfilling.
I'd say the same thing. I think I was really shocked. I thought social media for so long was a one-sided platform, and it's been really cool to see the community that has come from it and all the people we've gotten to know and the stories we've read. It's just been really cool.
Okay, so my last question before we begin to wrap up is, as people are looking to grow personally, professionally, spiritually, what is like one starting point of advice that you have for them? What should they do in the morning, or what's something that has helped you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this with our conversation with you. Like people ask, oh, how do I know what I want to do? And I was thinking about what actually makes you like, what engages you? What makes you put your phone down and you get lost in for hours? Like for me, that's playing piano and that's editing videos and that's, playing with my daughter. It's like, okay, well, those are maybe a good place to start. So what is it that like really makes you want to learn? What sparks your curiosity, and what do you get lost in for an indefinite amount of time? I think just like kind of figuring out what those are and trying to do more of that is a good place to start.
I was going to say something really similar, which is like, don't settle. I feel like a lot of people get really caught up in the fact that, oh, I have my job and then I have my passion, and they can't be the same thing. And I think when you start figuring out that your passion should be your career and should be your work, you can get really creative in how you can make those things mesh. And if you don't settle with a job you don't love and just by doing the wrong thing and actually pursue your passion, I think things just tend to work out better.
So good. Well, guys, we've had so many questions come in today. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them, but we're so glad so many of you are watching or listening to EdgeX this week. Andrew and Shawn, thank you so much for joining us again. We've loved having you.